about what's taking place. So, if you don't know me, my name is Gregory Cox, and I am the author of a book that's called Promising the Moon, Going the Distance. A book where I talked about my failures and some of my challenges in life, and then I also talked about my successes and the things that I've overcame. And so I'm excited right now. Thank you for joining me. Uh, so let's get started. Right now, let's get started. All right, here's another training that I want to do, um, and it's targeted toward families involved in child welfare. I am also one of the founders of Doing Family Support Services, and our goal is to continue to educate and inform parents who are involved in child welfare, help them understand the systems that operate uh, that's operating as a result of them either getting a child investigation case or losing their children to child welfare. So our goal is to make sure that we educate them, empower them, and to continue to strengthen them as parent leaders so that they can be heard in their communities and strengthen their families. All right. So I'm excited. So we're going to get started. Today, I want to talk about when family tree is shaken. When the family tree is shaken, and what takes place and what happens when the family tree is shaken. And so join me as I begin to walk you through what happens when a child is removed from the home, what happens with the family, what takes place with the children, some of the things we need to know. And at the end, I'm going to give some solution for the system, the child welfare systems that they need to consider when they are working with families. All right. So let's go. So thank you again for joining me. And then also this will be posted on the YouTube channel. And so I would love for you to go to the YouTube channel and to subscribe to the channel. It's going to be posted on Parent Perspective as well as Cox Live Talk. And so please, 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 you guys, I need to build up these subscribers so that other parents can get this information. So please take a moment and go to the YouTube channel and make sure you subscribe to the channel, and then make sure that you hit the notification button so that you would be notified when I create new videos and new trainings. So thank you again. And I am going to re-announce this again at the end of the video. All right, let's go. When the family tree is shaken. And the majority of times when that happened, it happened because of trauma. Or trauma can cause a family tree to be shaken. For me personally, when I lost my children to child welfare, it was a traumatizing situation. But what was different for me is that I lost my children through child welfare because of my addiction and because of my substance abuse. And I've always admitted that I was wrong. I'm guilty of neglecting the responsibility of my children's. But oh, I thank God because He allowed me to go get the help that I needed for my addiction and begin the process reuniting and recovering my family. And so I'm totally grateful for God for allowing me to have the opportunity to do that. And so I would love to say too that while I'm recording this training, it's March the 20th. And on March the 27th, I'll be celebrating 29 years of sobriety and 29 years of recovery. And so I'm excited about that. So thank you. Thank you once again. So let's go. So trauma. My personal story with trauma is that when my mom died, when I was 13, my mom died, and that was a traumatizing situation for me. It broke my family up. You know, we had to go move with relative. My relatives was the family support, at the time when my mom passed. My dad continued to drink. Um, he continued to use substance and medicate himself through alcoholism and drug addiction. And so that was traumatizing to me. And so just as situations in my life was traumatizing to me or to my father, it was also traumatizing to the children's. All right. And so we know that if you look at the study, the ACEs, the child adverse, what is it? The ACEs, the child adverse experiences, you will see in that study that trauma is developed out of different life issue or life challenges that we have, whether a death of a loved one, someone getting ill and dying, the separation, meaning divorce. Um, those are issues that can be traumatizing to the family, right? Removing from the home, the child removed from the home, an investigation is done. That's traumatizing. And so here are the objectives of this training. To understand separation from the child perspective. I want to point that out. There's a child perspective as well as there's an adult perspective. Understanding the role of gender plays in child separation, meaning what do the boys feel like? What are some of their response? What do the daughters or the girls feel like? What are some of their response? And then the next one is to expose appropriate service options, meaning that, and I mentioned it earlier, I want to give you some solutions of some things that you need to take a look at. We're talking about the system now. Some things that the system needs to take a look at when you're working with family. Those are the objectives, right? And so let's talk about what are some of the core issues in the child welfare system. The core issues. Number one, separation trauma. Separation trauma is when the family is separated. When there was an investigation done and there was finding that the parent was either neglectful or was not able to care for the kids. I can't think of the other term. Either they was neglectful or they neglected the responsibility of parents to take care of the kids, or there was some type of abuse that was going on. And so separation trauma is an issue that's in child welfare. The next one is the appropriate services. Sometimes parents go into the system and they have to do all of these services, and sometimes the services is not appropriate for what took place or what brought the case into child welfare system. And so that needs to be taken a look at when we talk about what's the appropriate services that will address the issue that the family had that brought the family into the child welfare system in the first place. And then the next one, permanency. In Illinois, we have one of the worst records of keeping children in child welfare systems too long. Too long. And so that needs to be addressed. Those are some of the issues that the children are facing in child welfare system. They stand in the system too long. Reuniting with the family is not taking place as fast as it should. Excuse me, let's go. All right. Thank you. This is a good cup of coffee. This is a good cup of coffee. All right. Children may not view the reason that the system or that they're part of a system as the source of trauma, meaning they may not see that what happened to them is trauma or have been traumatized. So they may have a whole totally different view of what this is. We may say trauma to them, they may not be able to relate because they're not understanding, for number one, the definition of trauma. And so we may want them to understand that they've been traumatized or try to help them and counsel them and give them the service that they need. But the truth of the matter is that we need to make sure that we helping them understand what took place or what's taking place. Thank you. All right, let's go. Here are some of the thoughts that's in the child's. Let me move this over because I want to make sure that you guys see this. All right. And I want to put on some of my glasses back on. All right. So here's one. The thoughts in the child's eyes is, you took me away from my parent. You took me away from my parent, and that's what they're looking at, is that the system took them away from the parent. The next one is that, is my parent okay? Will I see my parent again? See, this is in the eyes of the child, and this is how they see what's going on. They just want to be with their parent. When am I going home? They don't see that what took place with them or what took place with the family is that it was damaging, because the way they was living was norm. It was the norm. So to them, if they ate once a day or once a day, or they didn't eat a whole lot, to them that was the norm. And so they don't know that this was considered to be an issue with the parents and with the family. All right. So that's the eyes of the child. All right, let's go. Listen to this. There's a certain percentage of children that after they grow up and get older, they begin to look for their family as well. So in other words, no matter how long we hold them children in child welfare in the system, as they get older, they're going to look for their parents. They're going to have some questions, some concerns. They're trying to connect their identity with their biological parents or their biological families, right? And so we need to take a look at that. And then next, thank you. The separation of trauma, the response are different in boys than they are in girls. And I'm going to give you a list of things for the boy, and then I'm going to give you a list of things for the girls. And we might be able to say that we can see both listing in both of them. So I'm not going to say that it don't happen, that what happens to the boy may not happen to the girl, or what happened to the girl may not happen to the boy as a result of the separation of the trauma of the family. But I think statistics shows or studies show that when a boy is removed from his family, there's an emotional immaturity take place, meaning that he stopped growing emotionally. There's a delinquent behavior. He get aggressive. He get angry. He started hitting or getting into trouble. He become aggressive and violent, and he may begin to use substance. He may begin to use marijuana, use cannabis, begin to drink, begin to hang with the wrong crowd. His action, a boy action or behavior, usually takes place externally. Right? And then the girl, when we talk about separation trauma for the girl, she usually it's internally, right? And so there's our internal. So it's usually they're oversensitive about something. They get over emotional about some things. They tend to put themselves in unhealthy relationships. They tend to be promiscuous at an early age because they're looking for love. They're looking for love. They're looking to try to fix this trauma that's taking place, or this thing that's taking place in them. They may not be able to identify that as trauma, but these are the behaviors that takes place. Or they may start overeating and gaining excessive weight as a result of the separation of the trauma. And they may also start using substance. Why? It's because they still going through this internal struggle. Who am I? Where's my family? Do they like me? Why don't they like me? Why this have to happen to me? Right? And so that's the difference between the boy and the girl. Right. Here's the statement that I heard before. I'm not going to take credit for it because it's not mine, but it made a lot of sense to me. It said parents don't parent in systems, they parent in communities. So I know when I was going through the process of getting my children's out of child welfare system, um, when it came down to the supervised visits, my visits were scheduled in the office. My visits were scheduled in a child welfare office, and I was being monitored because the visits were supervised. And so I was being monitored on how I was parenting my children in this room. In this room, which is this system right here. When the truth of the matter is that parents parent in a community, meaning that when I take my children in the community, that's where the parenting is at. The grocery store, the laundromat, or the wash house, depending on what you call it, at the zoo, in the park, at the baseball game, at the store. These are the community places where parents show up at. And so it's hard for you to tell me whether I'm a good parent in one setting, which is your system. So in otherwise, we're saying move the parent out of the system and let them begin to parent in the community. Then you'll see true parenting. Then you'll see what the parent do when the child acts up in the store. And the child wants what it wants when it wants it. All right. And so it's true. Where there are systems in our community, but the truth of the matter is that a parent needs to parent in the community. And so I want to drop a footnote here. When we talk about parenting classes and we talk about supervised visit for parenting, make sure that you take that parent out of a one room, a conference room, when you're trying to determine whether they're a parent or not. And then I also want to say that parenting is ongoing. Parenting is not a 90-day program. It's ongoing. And so you can say you can be a parent can be mandated to attend parenting classes, but the truth of the matter is that after those classes are over and they receive the certificate and the graduation take place, parenting is still ongoing. It's still ongoing. So I wanted to stress that, and I wanted to let you guys know that it's ongoing. All right. You remember the old saying, an apple don't fall far from the tree? Meaning that if the tree is damaged, then it's very well possible that you're going to get some rotten fruit, or if you get any fruit from the tree because it's damaged. And let's face it, some of our parents in our community are damaged. Damaged from the poverty in the community, the violence in the community, the legal challenges that they've been faced in the community, the lack of education in the community for the parent, jobs, unemployment, not able to feed their families, right? And so some of those parents, domestic violence, unaddressed mental health issues, unaddressed parental or parenting trauma that took place in their life. legal issues that took place, right? Community, um, um, unaware of community resources, or parents not or refusing to receive help in their community. So I say it again, um, an apple don't fall far from the tree. So if you have a parent who's not getting their needs met, or don't have the appropriate resources and context that they need in order to grow, in order to be healthy, so that the family can be healthy, chances are the child or the children's are going to have some issues as well. That's what we're saying here. But then on the other hand, when you have a healthy tree, when you have a parent who's receiving therapy, when you have a family who's receiving counseling, when you have a family who understand that they need to stay sober in order to make sure that the needs of their children or the needs of the child is met, right? Here's another one, safety in the community. When the parent realize that they need to make sure that they families is safe in the community, gain employment, affordable housing. See, these are the things that the family need in the community in order to avoid any type of investigation. And let's face it, without these good fruits, the parents are at risk to having an investigation done, or having someone to call, to make a hotline call on this family, because the parents or the single mother or the parents are not able to feed the child. Kid going to school 2 days, 3 days in a row with the same thing on. And so then there's a hotline call. That's because some of the basic needs, or the things that their family needed, or the things that tree needed, which was the parent, she didn't have, or he didn't have, or they didn't have, which led to an investigation, right? We're talking about when the family tree have been shaken. When the family tree has been shaken and some things fall off, what needs to happen? What needs to take place? This is powerful here. Engaging fathers in child welfare. Protecting fathers' rights. Allowing the father to participate in the child welfare proceeding. Not minimizing or neglecting or refusing to engage with the father, thinking that the father don't want anything to do with the family. Chances are he's unemployed, he don't have a job, he may have some legal issues going on, he may be an ex-offender, he may be on parole and or probation. We don't know, but it's not up to us to X him out, because we may think, professionals I'm talking about, we may think that he don't want to be involved in the life of his children. We need to rethink that. When we promote family connections, and make sure that the father family is involved as well, that's an additional emotional support for the child, right? That's an additional emotional support for the child. The father's brother, the father's sister, the father's mother, which is the child's grandmother, the father's father, which is the child's grandfather. See, when we take out the father, we don't only just take the father out, but we also take out the other resources that's connected to the father as well. His extended family. The extended family may be able to financially support the family. And so we need to make sure that we are connecting with our fathers as well. Study shows that when fathers are involved in the life of the children, it improves the outcome for the family. Daughters are less likely to have to become promiscuous and get involved in sexual relationships early. Sons tend to not be delinquents and get involved in violence and gangs and drugs and other activity when the father's in the home. This is good. I'm almost done. This is good. Here's some of the bullet points that I said I would give the system and some of the things I think they need to look at and consider when working with family. Number one, separation trauma is a family issue and not just an individual issue. I can go on to say it's a community issue as well. The next one, both parents and child experience trauma when the child is removed. Both parents, whether they're in the home or not, they're still traumatizing to them. Why? It's because there's a system that came in and interrupt their system, their family system. This is good. The next one, resources should be age and gender appropriate, meaning when you refer a family for resources, make sure that the resource or the agency that provide that services is gender specific as well as age specific for the child, for the young adult, right? Make sure you consider that as well. And then the next one, keep the resource kit relevant to what the family need. Keep the resource kit relevant to what the family need. If you're going to give them a resource kit, make sure that you ask them and assess them what are some of the needs that they have. Here's our slogan or quote from Doing Family Supportive Services. I think I mentioned this in the last one as well. A referral should contribute to the creation of a harmonious arrangement that foster community among several systems with one specific goal: permanency. Can we reach permanency as quick as possible? Can we as a system avoid from this family staying in this system for a long period of time? And can we as a system get them to permanency? Thank you. All right. So here's what I want to do. I would love for you to please go to the YouTube channel, Parent Perspective, and make sure that you subscribe and like the channel. And then also go to Cox Live Talk and subscribe to either one of those channels, because this information is going to be on those channels. Why? It's because we want to make sure that we get as much information as we can to parents involved in child welfare, right? So I'm excited about what we're doing. I am going to continue to make sure that I create as many videos as I can to educate not only the parents, but the systems that work with the parents. Make sure you hit the notification button so that you can be notified when all of the new videos are uploaded. Please help me do this. This is much needed in our community. It's much needed. It's 5 o'clock. So please, thank you.